Get this, a new AI model, GPT-4, just scored 83% on a standardized test.
83%? Wow.
Yeah, called CommonsenseQA. The kind that measures everyday logic and reasoning. To put that in perspective, humans score around 89%.
Yeah.
This is a huge leap forward in AI, and in this deep dive, we're going to unpack why this matters and what it could mean for the future.
It really is remarkable. For years, teaching a machine, common sense has been a major hurdle in AI development. We take it for granted, but the ability to understand unspoken rules, social cues, and the implications of everyday events, it's incredibly complex.
Exactly. It's like knowing you shouldn't wear pajamas to a job interview, or that if you leave an ice cream cone in the sun, it's going to melt. Those things seem obvious to us. But imagine trying to explain that to a computer.
That's the challenge researchers have been tackling, and GPT-4's performance on CommonsenseQA suggests they're making some serious headway. So to answer your question about why this matters, well, imagine a world where AI can not only process information, but also truly understand it in a way that's closer to human thinking.
Okay, so help me understand this a little better. GPT-4 is part of this new wave of AI called large language models, right? What makes them so different from what we've seen before?
Right. GPT-4 is a large language model, or LLM. What sets these models apart is their ability to process and generate human-like text based on a massive amount of training data. And a key innovation here is something called the transformer architecture.
Transformer sounds a bit like something out of a sci-fi movie.
It does, doesn't it? But in simple terms, think of the transformer as a super sophisticated engine that allows the AI to understand the relationship between words in a sentence. It's like giving the AI a sense of context and grammar so it can read and write with a level of fluency we haven't seen before.
So it's not just memorizing words, it's actually understanding how they fit together to create meaning.
Exactly, and that's a crucial step towards common sense reasoning.
Okay, back to this common sense QA test. How did researchers use it to gauge GPT-4's abilities?
CommonsenseQA is a collection of multiple choice questions that require understanding everyday scenarios. For example, one question might be, where was Simon when you had the lawnmower? The answer, choices, could include things like in his office, on the street, in his bedroom, and so on.
And I'm guessing GPT-4 chose on the street, showing it understands that lawnmowers are usually used outdoors.
You got it. And while GPT-4 isn't perfect, it answered 83% of these common sense questions correctly, compared to its predecessor, GPT 3.5, which scored 66%.
Wow.
And to put that in even more perspective, the language model originally used in the CommonsenseQA study only scored 56.5%. So as you said, this is a huge leap forward.
Wow, those are some impressive numbers.
Yeah.
It's fascinating to see AI getting closer to human performance on these tasks. But
Yeah.
I have to ask, why should you, our listener, care about this? What's the real-world significance of an AI that can score well in a common sense quiz?
That's the key question, right?
Right.
Well, the implications are potentially huge. Think about fields like customer service, where AI chatbots could handle more complex and nuanced interactions. Or imagine AI assistants that can truly understand your needs and preferences, making your life easier and more efficient.
So it's not just about AI getting better at answering trivia questions. It's about AI becoming more helpful and intuitive in our everyday lives. That's pretty exciting.
Absolutely. But before we get too carried away, it's important to remember that even with these impressive advancements, AI still has limitations. GPT-4 is a long way from perfectly replicating human common sense.
That's a good point. I'm curious, what are some of the challenges researchers are still facing in this area? What are the limitations of current AI models like GPT-4 when it comes to common sense reasoning?
Well, one of the key limitations is that these models are still primarily trained on text data. They don't have the same kind of real-world experience that humans do.
Right, they haven't lived a life full of scraped knees, burnt cookies, and awkward social encounters.
Exactly, and that kind of experience shapes our understanding of the world in a way that's difficult to replicate with data alone.
So even though GPT-4 can ace a written test, it might struggle to navigate a messy, unpredictable real-world situation. It's like the difference between knowing the rules of a game and actually playing it. You learn so much more from experience.
That's a great analogy, and that's why researchers are exploring new approaches to AI development, like embodied AI, where AI systems can learn through physical interaction with the world, much like we do.
Embodied AI, now that sounds fascinating. But before we dive into that, I want to make sure we've covered the basics so far. We've established that GPT-4 is a large language model with impressive common sense abilities.
Yes, its performance on the CommonsenseQA test is a significant milestone, showing that AI is getting closer to human-level understanding in certain areas.
We've also discussed the potential impact of this technology, from more intuitive AI assistants to advancements in fields like customer service.
Right. The potential applications are vast, but it's crucial to acknowledge the limitations of current AI models and the ongoing challenges in replicating the full complexity of human common sense.
Okay, so we've laid the groundwork now. I'm eager to hear more about this embodied AI and what the future holds for AI's quest to master common sense. But first, let's take a quick pause and come back to you, our listener. What are your initial thoughts on all of this? Does anything surprise you about GPT-4's capabilities, or does this feel like a natural progression of AI development?
I'm also curious to hear your perspective. What stands out to you as the most exciting or perhaps concerning aspect of this research?
Welcome back to our deep dive into the world of AI and common sense. Before the break, we were discussing GPT-4's impressive performance on the CommonsenseQA test and exploring the potential implications of this breakthrough. Now, I'm eager to delve deeper into some of the areas we touched on earlier, particularly this idea of embodied AI.
It's a fascinating area of research, as we mentioned. One of the limitations of current AI models is their reliance on text data. They don't have the benefit of experiencing the world through their senses like we do.
Right, it's like trying to learn to ride a bike by reading a book.
Yeah.
You can study all the diagrams and instructions you want, but you won't truly understand how it works until you feel the wind in your hair and the pedals under your feet.
Precisely, and that's where embodied AI comes in. It's about giving AI systems physical bodies, whether it's through robots, autonomous vehicles, or other forms of physical presence in the world. The idea is that by interacting directly with their environment, these AI systems can develop a more grounded and nuanced understanding of common sense.
So instead of just processing text, they're actually experiencing things like cause and effect, spatial awareness, social dynamics, all the messy, unpredictable stuff that makes up real life.
Exactly. And by learning through this kind of hands-on experience, embodied AI systems could potentially overcome some of the limitations of current models.
It makes sense. After all, that's how humans learn,
Hmm.
right? We explore, we experiment, we make mistakes, and we adjust our understanding of the world accordingly. It's a continuous learning process.
Right, and researchers are trying to replicate this kind of dynamic learning in embodied AI systems. Imagine a robot that can learn to navigate a crowded room, not just by following pre-programmed instructions, but by observing human behavior, anticipating obstacles, and adapting its movements in real time.
That's pretty amazing. It's like giving AI a kind of common sense boot camp in the real world. But realistically, how far along are we in developing this kind of embodied AI? Is this something we'll see in our lifetime?
We're still in the early stages, but there are some really promising developments. For example, researchers are developing robots that can learn to perform tasks like grasping objects, navigating unfamiliar terrain, and even interacting with humans in more natural ways.
So maybe one day we'll have robot assistants that can not only understand our instructions, but also anticipate our needs and help us in ways that feel truly intuitive.
Exactly, and that brings us back to the question of why this matters. AI with common sense has the potential to revolutionize so many aspects of our lives.
Absolutely, from healthcare and education to transportation and entertainment, the possibilities are pretty much endless. But as with any powerful technology, there are also potential risks and ethical considerations we need to be mindful of.
You're right. As AI systems become more sophisticated and integrated into our lives, we need to be thoughtful about the potential consequences. For example, how do we ensure that these systems are used responsibly and ethically? How do we prevent bias from creeping into their decision-making processes? These are complex questions that society will need to grapple with as AI continues to evolve.
It's a lot to consider. It's almost like we're on the cusp of a new era,
Yeah.
where the lines between human intelligence and artificial intelligence become increasingly blurred.
It's a fascinating and challenging time, that's for sure. And it's crucial that we have these conversations and consider the broader implications of AI's development.
Well said. So let's recap what we've covered so far. We started by discussing GPT-4's remarkable ability to answer common sense questions, approaching human-level performance on a standardized test. Then we explored the concept of embodied AI and how giving AI systems physical bodies could enhance their understanding of the world.
Right, we talked about how embodied AI could help address some of the limitations of current models, which primarily rely on text data.
And we touched on the vast potential of AI with common sense, as well as the ethical considerations that come with such powerful technology.
Exactly. It's a complex and evolving landscape, but it's one that we all need to engage with.
Absolutely. So to our listeners, we'd love to hear your thoughts. What aspect of this conversation has resonated most with you? Do you share our excitement about the potential of AI, or are you more cautious about the potential risks?
I'm also curious to hear your perspective. What stands out to you as the most exciting or perhaps concerning aspect of this research?
While we've been focusing on GPT-4's success, it's important to remember that the CommonsenseQA dataset, while valuable, might not paint the complete picture of AI's common sense abilities.
Oh, really? I'm curious. Why is that? Are there other ways to measure common sense in AI that might give us different insights?
Yeah.
Exactly. Some researchers argue that using multiple data sets, each testing different facets of common sense, could reveal a more nuanced understanding of an AI's capabilities. For instance, there's a data set called SuperGLUE, which focuses on general language understanding, and then there's math, which assesses mathematical problem-solving skills. These could help identify strengths and weaknesses that Common Sense QA might miss.
That makes sense. It's like evaluating a chef based solely on their ability to bake a cake. To truly understand their skills, you'd want to see how they handle a variety of dishes, from appetizers to main courses.
That's a great analogy. Each data set is like a different culinary challenge, testing a specific set of cognitive ingredients necessary for common sense. And speaking of challenges, one of the biggest hurdles in AI development is moving beyond these tests and into the real world.
Right, we touched on this earlier with the idea of embodied AI, giving AI systems physical bodies so they can experience the world more directly.
Yeah.
It's exciting to think about the possibilities there, but I imagine there are also some major obstacles.
Absolutely. Creating AI that can seamlessly navigate the complexities of the physical world is incredibly difficult. Think about all the things we humans do instinctively, walking, talking, interacting with objects. These are incredibly complex tasks that require a deep understanding of physics, social cues, and so much more.
It's amazing how much we take for granted, right? We effortlessly adjust our movements to avoid bumping into people. We interpret facial expressions and body language. We know how to use everyday objects without needing explicit instructions.
Exactly, and replicating that level of intuitive understanding in AI is a monumental challenge.
Yeah.
It's not just about processing data, it's about understanding the underlying principles that govern the physical and social world.
So it's not just about giving AI a body, it's about giving it the ability to learn and adapt like a human does, to make sense of new experiences and apply knowledge in a flexible way.
Precisely, and that requires a fundamental shift in how we think about AI development. It's not enough to train AI on static data sets. We need to create systems that can learn continuously, that can adjust their understanding of the world based on new information and experiences.
That makes me wonder, are there any real-world examples of this kind of embodied AI in action? Is this something we're likely to see in our lifetimes?
We're still in the early stages, but there are some exciting developments. Researchers are working on robots that can learn to perform tasks like grasping objects, navigating unfamiliar environments, and even interacting with humans in more natural ways.
So perhaps one day we'll have robots that can not only follow our instructions, but also anticipate our needs, learn from their mistakes, and adapt to changing circumstances. That would be a game changer.
It would indeed imagine a world where AI can assist us in ways that feel truly intuitive and collaborative, where machines can understand our intentions, learn from our preferences, and help us solve problems in ways we haven't even imagined.
Welcome back to our deep dive into AI and common sense. It's been a fascinating journey so far, exploring the impressive advancements in AI, like GPT-4's ability to solve problems that require common sense, and the challenges that still lie ahead as we wrap up. I'd love to shift our focus to what's next on the horizon. What are the big unanswered questions that researchers are grappling with in their quest to create truly intelligent machines?
It's an exciting time to be working in AI with so much uncharted territory still. To explore, one of the most fundamental questions we're wrestling with is how to imbue AI with a deeper understanding of the world. Not just surface-level patterns, we've touched on this with ideas like embodied AI and causal reasoning, but it goes even deeper than that. It's about developing AI that can grasp abstract concepts, make inferences, and learn from limited data, much like a human child does.
So instead of just crunching numbers and identifying patterns, we're talking about AI that can actually reason about the world, understand why things happen, and make predictions based on incomplete information that sounds incredibly complex.
It is, and it pushes the boundaries of what we currently know about AI. One avenue of exploration is focusing on the development of AI systems that can learn and reason symbolically, much like humans do. Think about how we use language. We don't just process words in isolation, we understand their meaning in relation to each other and to the broader context.
Right, so a single word can have multiple interpretations, depending on the sentence it's in or the situation it's used in. It's like the word bank. It could refer to a financial institution, a river bank, or even a type of shot in basketball. We effortlessly understand these nuances based on context, but that's incredibly difficult for a machine to do.
Exactly. And that's where symbolic reasoning comes in. It's about giving AI the ability to manipulate and understand symbols, much like we do with language. This could allow AI to make leaps in logic, understand complex relationships, and ultimately develop a more nuanced and flexible form of intelligence.
That sounds promising. Are there any practical examples of how this symbolic reasoning is being applied in AI development?
There are some fascinating projects underway. For instance, researchers are working on AI systems that can learn to solve complex puzzles, write stories, and even generate computer code tasks that require not just pattern recognition, but also creativity and abstract thinking.
Wow, that's pretty mind-blowing. It sounds like we're moving towards AI that can not only perform tasks efficiently, but also think creatively and solve problems in innovative ways. It makes you wonder, what are the long-term implications of all of this? What does the future hold for AI and its relationship with humanity?
Those are the big questions, aren't they? And honestly, no one has all the answers. But what's certain is that AI will continue to evolve at an astonishing pace, and it will profoundly impact every aspect of our lives. The key is to ensure that we develop and use this technology responsibly, ethically, and for the benefit of all humankind.
I couldn't agree more. It's crucial that we stay informed, engage in these conversations, and shape the future of AI in a way that aligns with our values. So as we wrap up our deep dive, I want to leave our listeners with some key takeaways to ponder.
Absolutely. First and foremost, remember that AI is more than just algorithms and data. It's a rapidly evolving field with the potential to reshape our world in profound ways.
Right, and GPT-4's impressive performance on the CommonsenseQA test is just a glimpse of what's possible. The quest to create truly intelligent machines is still ongoing, with exciting breakthroughs and challenges on the horizon.
As AI continues to advance, it's crucial that we consider the ethical implications and ensure that its development aligns with human values.
And finally, remember that the future of AI is not predetermined. It's up to all of us to shape its trajectory and ensure that it's used for good. Keep those minds curious, stay engaged, and join us next time for another deep dive into the world of knowledge and discovery.